Hi, Kirsty, and thank you so much for coming in the podcast and joining us and giving us some of your time. I know that you started training again, so thank you.
No, thanks for having me. Yeah, I just got back on court. We've just started the third week back in training after being in lockdown here in Scotland. So yeah, still trying to get back up to pace on court, but I'm so happy to be back.
Yeah, I bet, of course. Just to start, can you just tell us like a bit about you and who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, my name's Kirsty Gilmour. I'm a full-time badminton player for Scotland and for Great Britain. I competed in the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. I've competed in 3 Commonwealth Games. I managed to get a silver and a bronze in Glasgow 2014 and Gold Coast 2018. I have a few European silvers as well. And yeah, I've been playing badminton since I was 4 years old. About 22, almost 23 years now.
Okay, so first of all, congratulations for all of these medals and success that you had. And so if we start a bit from the beginning, why did you start badminton? And I mean, you say you started at 4, so why did you start badminton and not another sport?
I think I pretty much did all of the sports, but my
Okay,
dad was like the national junior coach for kind of under 15 age.
all
My
right.
mum played in kind of primary school and high school, and my uncle was like a international player as well. So it was pretty in the family, and it was just always around. But I mean, I've tried football, gymnastics, a bit of karate. I've done a little bit of tennis, all
Okay.
sorts. So yeah, but I think badminton just stuck.
Yeah, of course. So you say you play other sport as well. When did you really focus just on badminton and stop all of the other sport?
So after primary school, when I made the decision about going to the Glasgow School of Sport, you have to specialise in one sport there, and there's
Okay.
5 to choose from. So it's badminton, athletics, hockey, swimming, or gymnastics. And so yeah, my sport was going to be rolled into my education, but also I would do more badminton after school as well. So it just kind of
Okay.
naturally became the one that I had to choose. Yeah.
Of course. And when did you know like you wanted to be your job, you wanted to be professional?
I don't think I ever made like a real sit down decision of am I going to go down this route of academics or down this route of sport. It's always just been kind of together for me. Straight after high school, I went straight to university. And always trained and did uni work at the same time. So probably after university, when I didn't really choose a course that I needed to go straight into a job with. I kind of always was just
Okay.
gonna have my degree and just do sport. So I don't know. I just never considered doing anything else really.
Okay, okay, that sounds good. So you won your first senior competition when you were 16. You compete at 17 to your first like Commonwealth Games. How was it for you to really compete at such a high level, like at such a young age?
Yeah, that first Commonwealth Games, I was 17. I think that's the youngest any Scottish player has ever gone to the Commonwealth Games. It was in Delhi, and literally that was so different from any of my other Commonwealth experiences because I was just there to purely gain experience. There was not a single performance goal um, in my head. Yeah, I was there to play singles, doubles, and mixed doubles, which I do
Okay.
not play, but it was just about be on court at this level for as many minutes as you can be. So yeah, and then it was a very different experience from Glasgow and Gold Coast, where I very much needed to get a medal at those ones.
Yeah, so like you say, you're obviously competing like worldwide now for many years, and in 2014 in Glasgow at home you got a silver medal, and you became the first Scottish woman to be in the final. Can you tell us a bit about this and how was it? What was the experience, especially at home?
Yeah, I've never seen Glasgow like it. Glasgow, it's not just like Scotland is my home, Glasgow specifically is my home. So to see the city, just the first week, the weather was amazing. It was so hot, and there was food festivals, music festivals, everything. Glasgow was amazing. And from a badminton point of view, I think I was seeded second, so I was seeded to get a silver medal, but I don't remember thinking that I really have to. I didn't put that pressure on myself when I was that age. But once I got into the final, I learned such a hard lesson of don't go on social medias in a major event, and it's something that I've stuck to since then. In Olympics and Commonwealth Games, I've stayed away from social medias just because, and it's not even the bad things that you read, it's the good, it's all the lovely comments that you read, and it made me less hungry for that final in Glasgow, because everyone was kind of saying how great I already was, and I was like, I know, right? So yeah, I should have kept my nose out of my phone, I think, and really believed that I could get the gold and not be satisfied. I think I was too satisfied with just being in the final. It's been a big lesson for me to learn. So I've had too many silver medals in my career now, and they hurt so bad.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because it's not something that we hear a lot, like to not go on social media, and actually that's actually the good comments that maybe like keep you out of focus.
Definitely, I think it's something that athletes aren't really trained in any way for. It's a completely new thing, and this generation of athletes, it's such a new thing that you just don't get trained in at all. You get trained how to do interviews, you get trained for your sport in the gym and everything, but you don't get trained for lots and lots of comments, good or bad, and that kind of psychological part of it is like I say, completely new to this whole generation.
Yeah, but it's still like impressive that yes, you learn it in the hard way, let's say, but at the same time it was like a big lesson for you, and now it's something you look at it and you grow from it.
Definitely, I'm glad I learned that lesson when I was 20 and not any later. But I wish it was a lesson that I didn't have to learn, but it was.
Yeah. So I read that you've been training with the national team since 2008, which is like a long time. And so during your career, you compete mainly with Scotland, but like you say, you also compete with Great Britain in the Olympics. Can you tell us a bit, how is it for you to be able to compete with like your home country and then also Great Britain?
Yeah, it is a difficult one to explain, to be honest. I completely train with Scotland, and there is a GB centre, although we kind of lost our funding from UK Sport, so GB Badminton doesn't specifically exist, but when it did exist, I would kind of still stay in Scotland and work remotely with the coaches there, just because I was very happy with my life up here, and I was pretty settled and things, so and it is, in a competing sense, it's the same but different, in that you come together in this big team. So I only compete as Team GB for Olympic Games, and now there's a new European Games which comes around. It replaces our European Championships every 4 years. So it's a multi-sport event, and I love a multi-sport event. Going into a village, I love having a main dining hall and all that stuff. So I really get an opportunity to compete every 2 years for Team GB, and it's so nice to come together with new athletes from different sports that I've never seen before in my life. But in the same breath, there's just competing for Team Scotland is my absolute favourite thing at Commonwealth Games. It's it's just being a part of that team feels so kind of intimate, because I see all of the other sports in the gym. We kind of cross paths with the netball girls and the boxers and the hockey players, and I know some from school, So it's kind of, and even the people that organise Team Scotland, I've known them now for 10 years.
Okay. So it's like a big family kind of.
Definitely, because Scottish sport is just big enough that there's so much depth to it, but it's also small enough that you can pretty much know everyone. And it's such a nice feeling. So I love competing for Scotland and for Team GB.
That's a really good thing, and it's maybe better for you to you feel more a family, but you also like the other side of it, to meet new people. And
yeah, definitely. They both bring such different things, and I've had such good experiences on both teams. So I think they're both pretty special.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like you say, you competed in 2016 in Rio. From my understanding, it's been quite tough for you, as you had a knee injury. Can you tell us a bit about it and how you look at it now?
Yeah, man, you guys have done some good research.
Yeah, of course.
The April before the Rio Olympics, I did something to my knee when I was playing the Australian Open, and that something turned out to be tearing my meniscus in my right knee. So from April till August, I just played with heavy taping on my knee. I knew it was quite bad, but I could still kind of train, very limited. And so if there's one thing you're going to kind of push through an injury for, it's probably going to be an Olympic Games, right?
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, I pushed through Rio, but I wasn't in a great condition, and I really don't think I played anything close to my best there. So it was a bit disappointing performance-wise, to be honest. A great experience, but badminton, it wasn't very memorable for me. And then in the October, just after Rio, I got an operation to remove 30% of my meniscus. So I'm working with 2/3 cushioning in there, so I have to be quite careful. And I was back on court competing within 4 months, just going through all the rehab and and in that time I got a new coach as well, so it was a real kind of refreshing period, and a real new fresh start. So
okay, but aside from the injury, was it a dream come true for you to be able to compete as an Olympic?
Definitely. There's something so special about competing at Olympic Games, and just everything that comes with it. Everything from getting the kit to flying out as a team and living in the Olympic Village. There's not much that really prepares you for it, although Commonwealth Games is pretty close, but you need to times a Commonwealth Games by about 5 to get an Olympic Village, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something crazy, 26,000 people within a kind of a village kind of thing. And so it's super special, but like I say, it kind of, I don't think I played my best badminton simply because I physically couldn't. So it was a bit of a disappointing experience for me, and now Tokyo's kind of changed, so I hope that I can have a better experience in Tokyo if we get to do that. When we get to do that, I don't know.
Of course, and of course we wish you the best for Tokyo. So it was kind of a mixed feeling, but as an athlete and as a normal person, we all face challenging during our life and during our career. What do you think was the biggest challenge for you up until this point? Was it that injury, or was it something else during your career?
I think probably just the kind of smaller, younger team that we have in Scotland right now. It's definitely not a bad thing, but it does require me to, I went from being the youngest person in the team to the oldest person in the team pretty quickly. I am the oldest person in the Scottish team when I'm 26, so
yeah.
I wouldn't say it's held me back, but I've never really had someone in my country to go toe-to-toe with every single day. I've had players that have come before me, and we've got some really good younger players coming up just now, but to not have that kind of immediate competitor that's not a boy. But I try to make the most of my time when I go to tournaments, and I'm pretty good friends with a lot of the other women's singles players around the world and around Europe. So I try to kind of, when I'm at tournaments, I try to use it as really good match practice and sparring practice and training when I'm there. So I try to make up some ground, but at the same time, I love training here, and it's I don't think I would want to train anywhere else.
Yeah, of course. So how do you like overcome these challenges? Like you say, training, playing like really good game during competition against other players?
Yeah, definitely. It's taking advantage of that because I literally did the maths for the last 2 years, and I think I was home 6 months and away 6 months with all the traveling and competing. Another way we can combat that is by doing kind of 2 against 1 exercises, so that there's more pressure coming from the other side of the net, and just really close contact with my coaches, just to make sure that we're never slacking off and we're always working absolutely 100% with like 100% focus. I think is a really important part of it. But it's a lot of effort, but I wouldn't really have it any other way. So
yeah, of course. Did you ever considering stopping badminton and give up on badminton at one point during your career, or no?
I would say I've had some days where I've maybe thought it, but I don't think I've ever seriously. Well, I maybe have had quite close considerations of when I will stop. Now that I'm kind of approaching my late 20s, but I don't think I've ever really sat there and thought I can't do this anymore, because there's always a silver lining and something that keeps you going. I always manage to come back to that, and I've got some really, really good people around me with psychologists and coaches and the other players who I've had some long conversations with about all sorts, from the tiny little skills that you're trying to work on court to why am I doing this, and how can I keep doing this. So I'd say the people around me have really helped me keep going as well.
Of course. Okay, that's good to hear that you don't want to stop. So we talk a bit about challenges, but many people will say that becoming a professional athlete requires a lot of sacrifice. What would you say, like, did you add any sacrifice that you had to do, or was it just like you were really focused into badminton and reaching your goal, so you didn't really thought about sacrifice? It was not sacrifice for you?
I don't know if I really like the word sacrifice, because I think if you're doing something for the right reasons, you're still getting something from it. And like I say, I have such good people around me that they absolutely understand. So even if I miss a really big birthday or a wedding or something, it's not through my own choice. It's something that I will 100% make up to them, and that we can celebrate at some other time. I've become very good at like kind of adapting plans, and I think if you always make a conscious effort to have the balance between badminton and life stuff, then you can be pretty happy. But I do think when it becomes unbalanced, I think that's where frustration lies. And but I think if your sport still brings you happiness, then it's not so much of a sacrifice, the other things, really.
Okay. So you will say that you need it's important to have a balance between life and also the sport to keep you happy and motivated.
Yeah, I would say last year I probably really didn't get that balance right. I think almost the only thing I thought about was badminton, and just absolutely nailing every single thing. And even when I wasn't on court, I was thinking about being on court, and I'm making a conscious effort to focus 100% on court and in my training. And then the second I walk out the door, I'm gonna turn my brain off to badminton. I think it will make me happier. So that's how I'm gonna work this year. Just always trying to find a way to keep loving it, because it is very all-encompassing, because if you're not on court, you're thinking about, are you doing the right recovery, and have you eaten correctly, and how do you need to prepare for tomorrow, and can you afford to just watch one more episode of something because you really need to be awake and ready for tomorrow, and all these little bits. So I'm trying to chill out a little bit more, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. So, like you talk about, like your family was around badminton since you were a kid. Your dad was coaching, and your uncle, like you say, was like a professional before. Did you ever feel pressure from it, or not at all?
To be honest, no. I think it's very like nature versus nurture. It's something that was very available to me, and so it was encouraged. But I think that would have happened with, whatever my family were interested in. I've always said I don't think I'm, the most talented badminton player, but I kind of get fixated on something and I get a bit obsessed with it, and I work really hard at something. So if it wasn't badminton, I think I would do some other sport. I think I would be in football if it wasn't badminton. But I don't think I'm a talented badminton player, but I think I'm talented at physical hard work. I really like to run around and work really hard, and that means I can eat more afterwards normally. So that's a positive.
Okay, and what we say, like usually hard work beat talent at the end. So
yeah, I think it definitely does. I think there'll be occasionally one person in a generation that seems to just be easy for them. But I think the other 99 players will beat that person out over a longer career. So I think nothing really replaces hard work.
Of course.
So it's probably something that I live by.
And in general, like, have you felt like pressure during like different times in your career, for example, in the Rio Olympic or in the Commonwealth at home? And how did you handle the pressure?
Yeah, 1,000%. I think maybe the biggest time I felt, the most pressure I think I felt was either the World Championships, which was in Glasgow in 2017, or the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games. For the World Championships, it was at the Emirates Arena, where I've played so many matches of badminton over the years. I'm fairly confident in the statistic that I've played the most competitive badminton matches of anyone in the world in that arena.
Okay.
It's just 10 minutes that way.
Okay.
And so I arrived at the arena and on the first day, and it was like World Championships Glasgow 2017, and on the left hand side there was a 30-foot high poster of Chen Long, who's a previous former world champion, Olympic champion, and then a 30-foot high poster of me, because it was in Scotland and I was the highest seeded Scottish player. So that was a bit of a shock, and I spent many hours talking to my psychologist for that one, and I think the biggest phrase that we came up with was, what are you going to do with the pressure, and not what the pressure is going to do with you. Because if you're worried that something can go wrong, like, what if it goes very, very right, and it'll be amazing? So you've got to think about the opportunity that it presents rather than, the things that could go wrong. And that's something I've kind of carried on to Gold Coast, where I was seeded 4th for Gold Coast, which was an important seeding for me to get to avoid these players in the earlier rounds. But I was seeded 4th, and I've never beaten any of the 3 players higher than me. So I lost the semi-final one morning, and then in the bronze playoff match, I was playing the girl that I played in the final of the Glasgow Commonwealth Games.
Michelle Lee, right?
Michelle Lee, yeah, exactly. I've never beaten her before, but I just put everything in. It's the hardest match I've ever had to play, genuinely, because normally when we lose, we're finished pack up, go home.
Yeah.
But I lost at 12 p.m. I had to go back to the village, try and put food in my mouth, and then get back to the venue and play again. It was horrible, but amazing at the same time.
Yeah. That's really interesting. In like previous interview, you describe yourself as competitive, which is obviously like a really good thing. But did he ever impacted you like in a negative way? And did he made you put more pressure into yourself during competition?
Yeah, I think that is a big thing. I think I probably have like competitions with myself. And my coach just now, Ingo, is actually very good at that, at kind of helping me with that. He expects a lot from me, and it's nice to have someone that has the same expectations of me as I do. So it feels like we're very much on the same page, and he's constantly challenging me to like new little things. And if I don't really want to do something, he'll just ask me, and why do you think that is? And the answer is normally because I'm not very good at it, so therefore I should do it more. All these little things. So he's a really good person to work with. But yeah, for the competitiveness, yeah, I mean, I've always played against and trained against boys. So whenever, it doesn't matter if I'm on court against Victor Axelsen, I believe that I can win that. I truly do. And it just, it annoys me that I don't possess as much testosterone in the old muscles, but I will find other ways to get around that for sure. So yeah, I've always had that kind of competitive edge regardless of who's on the other side of the court. Of
course. So you talk a bit about like talking with a psychologist. How important for you is like the mental game in badminton? I think hugely important, and I think it's something that's not invested in enough. I will say that I'm quite high maintenance in that I think I'm currently working with 3 psychologists. Okay. One for general, that all of the badminton team is working with. We just started at the start of lockdown, so that's pretty new. But he seems like a really good guy with some really good ideas, and just even some like fresh ideas and a new ways to look at things. I really like that. And then I've been working with the guy Simon since about 2015, and we kind of talk about like performance stuff, in match play, pre-match, post-match, how we're going to approach things. And then just because I think last year 2019 was a bit difficult for me, on court and off court, I also work with a woman, Zara, for just more life things and anxieties and things like that. So I felt I was spending too much time with Simon talking about life stuff and not badminton related psychology. So I took the decision to kind of split my time, which has been a lot better. But I think it's so important, and I'm not sure it's something. I think everyone works so physically hard on court, so I'm kind of working on maybe if I can work mentally and tactically a bit better, then I won't have to work as physically as hard. New ways to look at things is always really nice. Yeah. Of course, and especially that badminton is like an individual sport, so like you playing against somebody, but you're also playing kind of against yourself. Because like, for example, I mean, I've been playing like football my whole life, but then I know that whenever I made a mistake, then maybe one of my partner can catch up for me or do something. It's different, but I guess in badminton and individual sport in general, like the mental part is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And with badminton, especially how things have worked out for me is that I travel to a lot of tournaments by myself, sometimes with no coach. So it's a lot of time sitting in hotel rooms thinking about all the mistakes you've made that day. You know? And just trying to kind of reassure yourself, trying to be your own psychologist when there's an 8-hour time difference between you and your actual psychologist back home, and and your friends and family are all asleep, and you just have to sit in your hotel room and think about if you're actually a good badminton player or not. It's a lot to go around in your brain for a couple of weeks. So it's difficult, but I think I think taking this break from competing has been actually quite good for me to step back a little bit and gain some perspective on badminton as a whole. And I think it's going to allow me to enjoy it more now than it did before, because it was a constant non-stop rolling stone before. And I think I've been able to actually stop, take a breath, look at badminton in a kind of new way, and I'm kind of ready to dive back into competition.
Okay, so that's good. Growing up, what was like your biggest like inspiration and motivation? Was it someone like in the badminton area that you were looking, or somebody else in sport, or somebody else in like life in general?
I've never had like a one individual person that I'm like, I want to be that. But I think in general, I think Scottish sport has benefited so much from Andy Murray, and I'm a racket sports player, so it's probably a pretty basic answer, but I just think he's such a good guy. I think his work ethic is correct, and I also think he has managed to get that life sport balance, and I think just the legacy that he's going to leave and on tennis and Scottish sport is going to be really, really important. And I wouldn't say it was like a thing I thought about every single day when I went into training, but I just know that it's possible for an athlete or anyone in kind of any industry that features cameras and crowds, that you could impact someone else's life in some way, and to feel like other people are invested in your career is mad. But it's super, super nice at the same time.
Yeah, for sure, I understand. And today, do you have are you still looking at it as a motivation, or do you have like something else? Or now that you're 26, it's like you don't really need to look at it to be motivated?
Yeah, I think I kind of have my own, like we talked about before, kind of my own expectations of myself, so that kind of keeps me more motivated. And I think just the constant like changing players in badminton, especially coming out of Asia, it's never the same people that you're competing against for very long. You never get stuck in a kind of rut of competing against the same 5, 10, 15 people. There's always someone new to play, just because it's so popular. And I play quite a big variety of kind of levels of tournaments. So there's almost always someone that I've never heard of before, and they could be amazing. So so it's always interesting. I'd say it can be stressful, but it's never boring.
Okay, I understand. So we spoke a bit about your career and that all the things that you achieved so far. Looking back at all of the things that you achieved, what does success mean to you? Is it like doing the thing that you love? Is it traveling?
I think that's such a difficult question, because I don't know as an athlete. I don't know a single athlete that I could ask, are you 1000% satisfied with your career? I think every athlete is always looking at what's next and what could be better, and there'll always be that one final or that one performance that will like haunt them and they could have won it or whatever. But I think success for me would be to I've always said I wanted to get a medal at like all the major events, so Europeans, Commonwealths, Worlds, Olympics. I got two out of the 4. Arguably, I've got the 2 hardest ones to get now, Worlds and Olympics. But I've come pretty close in the past, especially to that world medal. So just to know that I'm still capable of more. I think when I feel like I've completely emptied the tank of performance, that's when I'll probably look back and see that I've had a lot of success. But I still feel too much in the middle of my career to feel successful, though there's still more that I want. So if it would be a bit like the final feeling,
Okay.
if I was too satisfied with what I have now. I don't think that would be a good thing. So I still think there's more I can do. And I think in a few years, if I can stop and think back at all the things that I've achieved, then I'll be pretty happy. But hopefully there's more I can add on from here.
Of course. Of course. You also received 2 like major awards. You got the Glasgow Athlete of the Year, and you also got a Scottish Young Sport Personality of the Year. Is it something that was important for you?
They were quite surprising actually, because sometimes I don't know I've been like nominated for these things. But I think I always kind of dread those awards evenings before they happen, because it's kind of sitting around big tables with people in sport, but you don't really know, and making small talk. But they always end up so much fun, and they're always absolutely lovely. But yeah, they were very surprising awards for me to receive. I just remember being quite young, and not really knowing what was going on. So
Okay.
yeah, those are strange ones, because I've not done anything outside of what I would normally be doing to have received those awards. I was just training and competing, and the winning the tournaments is the part that I like focus on. I don't think I can focus on winning the Glasgow Sports Person of the Year award. It's not a performance goal that I put down on my sheet every year.
Of course.
But they're all very nice.
Of course. Okay. Something that is always interesting to look at as well is like looking back at your career so far. Of course, there is like more to come, but if you could pick one of your like favorite moment, what would it be?
Oh, one of my favorite moments. I think the bronze medal in Gold Coast. And it sounds weird that I would prefer my bronze medal over my silver medal, but just because that match was so difficult for me to get back on court and to play and to be in the right headspace for, and to beat Michelle for the first time and to finish on a win, and just to know that I could not play any more badminton. It was sheer relief and happiness and exhaustion all mixed into what it was the most feeling I've ever done. I was an emotional wreck for, I'd say, a month after the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games. So just with everything that came with that, it was probably the most memorable thing. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I mean, it's really interesting, like everything that happened, and then you end up winning and with the medal. That's really cool.
There's just more like emotion attached to it. I think other times, the tournament will be a higher level, or it'll seem on paper to be a better result. But for me, just all of the emotions that were around that. My sister and my mum were out watching me in Gold Coast as well, so that was amazing as well.
Yeah, I bet. So I know that you were looking to compete in the Olympic in Tokyo, and you talk a bit about it. As we all know, like it's been postponed to 2021, and England has been in like a lockdown as well. You talk a bit about it, but how this lockdown has been for you?
It's been challenging, but not terrible. Like I say, I've tried to look at some real positives that have come out from it, with kind of gaining perspective on things. But at the same time, it's been pretty difficult. But saying that, we were really well set up from Badminton Scotland and from the Scottish Institute of Sport. So they worked together, and I mean, we had a 2-session-a-day program, so everyone was complaining about being bored in lockdown, and I was still doing 2 sessions a day and just pretty busy. So yeah, it was hard but also nice. The motivation was the difficult factor at the start, but then it just kind of became routine. And yeah, I ended up desperate to get back on court, which is a feeling that I think I'd missed for a little while. So that was super, super nice. But I think with the Olympics, I think that was absolutely the right decision. Could you imagine being at
Yeah, of course.
an Olympic Games right now? Because it's supposed to be, I think it's supposed to start on, a few days ago. So
Yeah.
that would be madness. I think to push it back a year is the correct decision. But yeah, it is a shame because you get your head set for it and then it doesn't happen and you have to kind of reassess and kind of throws all of your training and your plans off. But it is what it is, and I think everyone is absolutely in the same boat, so there's nothing we can do about it. But I really hope it happens in some capacity next year. I don't think it will be a regular Olympic Games. They're talking about no spectators and stuff. I think that's probably the route that we have to go down. So it's going to be very, very different from a normal Olympics. But I think it's going to be special in its own way, and it'll definitely go down in history. That's for sure.
Of course, and hopefully, yes, it will happen. So for you, like at the beginning, it was more, you will say, like it was difficult to be motivating, knowing that you have to stay home. But you, with the training, like you say, it was kind of a routine, and you were able to be more motivated and looking forward to come back. I saw you've been serving into toilet paper rolls, so.
Exactly. I think I struggled at the start because I wasn't playing badminton, so I was like, what's the point? But then I kind of came to become really invested in the physical training that I was doing. I know Kate wasn't, all like hitting shuttles as much as I would normally be, but kind of making sure that I did all of the little things correctly, and they would hopefully add up to the big things and put me in a better place for when I actually got back on court. But yeah, in the meantime, I just thought I would, mess around and try and hit some shuttles into toilet rolls because, the whole panic buying was happening, and I had a spare roll, so yeah, just trying to give people ideas of things to do, really, see if they could, have a go at the challenge and things. But yeah, that more grew out of boredom than anything else.
Of course, that's fun. I need to give it a try then.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know how you do it. Tag me in it.
Of course. So moving forward, now that you start competing again, what's the focus? What's your goals? Like, is that Tokyo for next year? Is that the Commonwealth coming like in 2022 as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually quite a lot of kind of major events. So back in February, our women's team managed to qualify for the World Women's Team Championships. So we have that in October in Denmark, and luckily Denmark is a country that's doing pretty well. So I hope that's something that can go ahead. We're looking at a few tournaments. We're kind of reluctant to make a tournament program right now because things are still changing, and we might just have to put it in the bin if we make a full year program. So yeah, I mean, and then in April, well, we still have to finish our Olympic qualification period, and I'm part of the Athletes Commission that's working with BWF to figure out how we very boring stuff like unfreeze the rankings and Olympic qualification. So we have that. We have European Championships, which is obviously a major. And then it'll be Tokyo, hopefully, fingers crossed, in next summer. So there's a lot of things to keep my eye on the ball and to keep me occupied, I think. It's going to be a strange year for sure. I think traveling's going to look very different. But I think my first thing that'll get me back into kind of semi-competitive play is I play for a club in Denmark. So I've got a match with them end of August. So I'm slowly working back up to full pace in training. I think I'll maybe be ready for a match at that point. Maybe we'll see. It could be horrendous, but I don't know.
Okay, so pretty busy schedule, I'd say.
Always, yeah.
So you talk a bit about it. Your dream is really to get a medal to every major, right?
Yeah.
So until then, you're not gonna stop.
Maybe I can keep going till the Paris Olympics. We'll see. But yeah, that would be. I think any athlete would be happy with that at the end of a career. So yeah, we've still got a few more chances to get those medals. So I'll see if I can manage it.
Of course. Looking back at this whole badminton and like the fact that you've been playing it since you were 4 years old, what would you say, like, what was the impact that badminton had on your life?
I think just badminton's just taught me everything. I think it's very cheesy, but I think like life can be condensed down into sport, and everything's so applicable. I think you can learn so many skills from sport for life. I think it teaches you teamwork, communication, confidence building, all sorts. I think it teaches you everything that you would need for life. Organization. You can't be a professional athlete without organization, and
Of course.
yeah, it's just kind of taught me all the kind of life skills, and it's been pretty fun. Also, if I look at it as a whole, there's some pretty bad days, but if you look at it as a whole, I'm pretty happy. I'm not in any other career. I'm pretty happy with my choices so far.
Okay. So you will say that badminton kind of shaped you as a person of who you are today?
Yeah, definitely. I think from the friends that I've made from it and the coaches that I've worked with, there's really not many, if any, like bad people in badminton. It's a really nice community. And like I say, it's similar to like the Scottish sport community in that it's big and diverse, but also small enough that you can get to know almost everyone.
Okay.
And everyone's pretty good at helping everyone else out. It's not very tribal. I'll train with the Danish team because I've got some friends that are players, and I know the coaches pretty well. I have to come together with Team GB and work out how we're going to do that training. And yeah, it brings everyone together through necessity. If we want to progress the sport, then we're all going to have to work together.
Okay.
That's really the only way it's going to happen.
That's great to hear, and it's pretty awesome. With you being a professional athlete, do you see yourself as like a role model now for people that look up to you, or like kids that start playing badminton? Or
yeah, I think it's definitely not something that you don't aspire to be a role model. That's not something I ever wrote down on my sheet. But I think it's it comes with the job of, being on camera and people being able to come and watch you play. I think you've got a responsibility to play fairly, first of all, and then also conduct yourself properly off the court. I think if you're only doing one of those things, it doesn't make for a great role model. So it's not something that I'm super conscious about, but I am aware that people see how I behave, and I always just want to do things correctly and be a nice person along the way. I think it's like I said, I'm a very competitive person, but I think not at the expense of manners and niceness. I wouldn't say that's something that I bring to a game. I try to be pretty respectful to everyone that's involved. We're all just there because we love badminton and we love sport. So let's try and make this an enjoyable experience for everyone. And it's, things get heated because careers are on the line and stuff, and everyone's trying to make performance goals and funding targets and things. But at the end of the day, no one in the whole world would do sport if it wasn't fun. So
yeah, for sure. So you talk about like growing the sport and everybody's kind of like working towards it. Are you involved in any project with like kids and young players as well?
Yeah, Badminton Scotland are doing some really good work, and we're kind of changing the way that we get kids involved in the sport. We want to get as many kids as possible involved, so that the base level is bigger, so that we can hopefully grow some, as many elite players to the top of the game as possible. But I'm also involved with the Women's Sport Alliance, that's trying to help anyone involved in elite women's sport, whether that's athletes, coaches, physio, support staff, men and women, and anything in between. Get them involved with helping. It's kind of like a membership kind of thing, and it helps it can help with sponsorship, legal things, training, mobility, physio stuff, anything that you could need as an athlete. So I work with that, so trying to kind of help women's sport as well. But yeah, I think just as I'm in like the middle of my career just now, I think the best thing I can do is kind of lead by example, like you say, and then hopefully maybe towards the end of my career I can be a bit more, proactive in setting something up to get kids, and I think especially girls, into sport, because it's like I say, it's so useful for so many things.
Yeah, for sure. So how, like you described it before, for you it's really important that kids get the opportunity to play sport when they grow up.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the time it's an availability. And if there's no badminton clubs near you, you're not going to play badminton. So
Of course.
it needs to be accessible. And I think there's maybe a bit of a stereotype that you need to pay lots of money for lessons and get the equipment and all the kit and stuff, but it really doesn't have to be like that. I think there's a different way to get kids into sport and to get everyone into sport, regardless of how much money you've got.
Of course, and it's also like pretty interesting because now with social media you can express and like share and trying to help like people in a different way, when before he was maybe not accessible that way.
Yeah, definitely. People that I would never think would follow me. To have that kind of influence over people is like I say, new. No one teaches you how to do this, so it's really up to you what you're gonna put out there. So I think it would be a shame if people were putting out anything negative. So, just if I can help grow the sport in any way, if one person picks up a racket because they saw one of my posts and thought, "Oh, that looks cool," that's pretty nice.
Yeah, of course, that's awesome. So because we talk a lot about badminton, when you don't play badminton, what else do you do?
I'm a bit of a film geek.
Okay.
That's what my degree is in, filmmaking and screenwriting. I haven't used it really, but maybe in the future. But yeah, films. I really love food and checking out new restaurants and stuff. Doesn't always follow my nutrition plan, but it's okay. We can have some cheat days.
Of course.
And I'm a coffee lover as well, so that's kind of like a little not project, but it keeps me busy when I go traveling to research all the the top coffee shops in the city, and it's an activity that I can do, because quite often with like sightseeing in cities it requires you to climb 300 steps or go up to the top of a mountain and stuff. So I found coffee shops quite a good way for me to experience a place and a culture with no fatigue or performance. So that's pretty good. And that's cool. Just the usual, hanging out with my family. I have a niece who's about 18 months old, so she's normally fun to be around. She has her off days.
Okay.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Okay, that's cool too. And like you said, you're in the middle of the career, but have you already thought about what you would like to do after? Either, like you say, in the movie maybe area, or keep the badminton going, maybe as a coach or...
Yeah, I think I would maybe like to do a bit of both. I don't see my life without badminton, but at the same time, I don't see myself being a full-time coach. So yeah, maybe I can use my degree a bit more, maybe do a bit more writing and, something like that. But also, I think there is a lot for me to do with the sport as well. I think for me to check out completely would be a bit unfair to all the people that have invested time and money in me over the many, many, many years. So there's definitely still work I would like to do with badminton. But yes, I definitely have maybe begun to think about what's going to be next, but I don't have any fully formed thoughts yet.
Okay. That's cool. I mean, you have some time to think about it.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. So for the people that are listening to this podcast and who want to follow, maybe send you a message, what is the best place to do it? Is that Instagram?
I think Instagram and Twitter. I
Okay.
post all the same things on Facebook, but I wouldn't say I was like active on Facebook. So Instagram and Twitter, it's Kirsty Gilmour with another R on the end of both of them. So yeah, I'm normally on there. You can normally find me on there.
Of course, and we will put your Instagram in the description of the podcast and everything, so people can reach out to you. So I just have one last question for you. The purpose of this podcast is to show that everyone is on their unique journey, and even professional athlete go through a different thing on the road to success and what thing they want to achieve. So if you could give like one piece of advice to the people that are listening and that have big dreams, but that don't really know how to reach them, what will it be?
I would say, firstly, find something that you love. Otherwise, you're not gonna stick at it. If it doesn't mean anything to you, then why are you doing it? But also, motivation is different for everyone. I think some people are motivated by the financial aspect of sport, which is completely, it's legitimate. But I think if you're not interested in the win, for me, that doesn't really justify the traveling and the days of sore bodies at training and things like that. I think if I didn't love winning and even just the competing part, actually, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I think definitely find something that you love, and also once you find that thing, don't compare yourself to other people. I think it's the hardest thing to do, but it's been a massive thing for me. I think your style is going to be different from other people. Your tactics are going to be different. You're a different person, so what works for one person might not work for another person. So find your way of being the best you, because it's not always what's written in a textbook. There could be a way to do it that works for you and no one else. So don't compare yourself, and don't I think take inspiration, but don't try and be a carbon copy of anyone else, because that's normally not going to work.
Of course. Okay, so thank you so much for your time, and it's been really a pleasure to speak with you, and I think it was really inspiring and really impressive to hear a bit more about your story. So best of luck into your training, and hopefully we see you in Tokyo 2021, and we wish you all the best.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me. It was a nice little talk. Thank you.